Byler is a award-winning film director and Netroots organizer. He was nominated for an Independent Spirit Award for his debut feature film, Charlotte Sometimes, in 2002, which was hailed by Roger Ebert as a breakthrough for Asian American filmmakers. His 5 films have won 16 film festival awards. Eric and his partner, Annabelle Park, founded the Coffee Party USA in January 2010, shortly after the completion of their award-winning documentary, 9500 Liberty, about the immigration culture war of Prince William County, Virginia. Eric and Annabelle have also teamed on hundreds of web videos, including dozens for Coffee Party USA that have reached millions of Americans. In January 2011, they helped to organize the For the People Summit, marking the first anniversary of the Citizens United Supreme Court decision. Please welcome Eric Byler.
So I do make videos, but I'm not going to show any now. You can go online and see them if you like what I have to say. So yeah, as Sandra mentioned, I come from the entertainment industry. That was where I made my career during my 20s and early 30s. I'm almost 40 now. Yeah,
A kid.
So I went from making entertainment to using new media technology to make a statement. Often I would film something in Prince William County at the Board of County Supervisors Chamber, and I'd have it on YouTube before the sun went down. And in that county, our YouTube channel, 9500 Liberty, became like C-SPAN, but at the local level. And it was something that ordinary citizens used to organize against a SB 1070 bill, a resolution that was briefly in place in Prince William County until the people came together, Republicans and Democrats, and repealed it after 8 weeks of implementation. And so that taught us some important lessons. And to apply it to this narrative war that we have between the people and the corporations in this country, I wanted to sort of hitch on to something Craig said about what President Obama is trying to decide when he looks at this executive order. And this, I think, points to the fact that we shouldn't look at this as a partisan issue if our Democratic president has to solve this equation. What should I fear more? Being voted out of office or being advertised out of office? That's what he's doing right now, trying to decide whether he's going to nominate Elizabeth Warren to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. That's what he's trying to decide right now with this executive order. And it's not just Democrats, of course, who have to make that calculus. Did you see Paul Ryan on Meet the Press, where he said that, yeah, 80% of Americans are against the repeal of Medicare, turning Medicare into a voucher program. But leaders don't worry about the polls. Leaders change polls. What do you suppose gave him the confidence to say that leaders are going to change 80 to 20 in time for 2012? Obviously, it wasn't in time for Tuesday, but I think what he meant was in time for 2012. Leadership spending is going to change those polls. What he meant was corporate spending. What he meant is that everything that we've been talking about here. And what I'm trying to lay out is a path for the people to rival leadership spending and to rival the kinds of media, the kinds of communications that have at the gate a multi-million-dollar price tag. Because when I was growing up, not far from here in Burke, Virginia, there were 3 channels plus DCA Channel 20. And we the people, you know, the kind of stuff that Annabelle and I do now, where Annabelle posts something on Facebook and 1 million people see it, 40 to 80 million people have an impression from a Facebook post that Annabelle does at facebook.com/coffeeparty. 40 to 80 million people a month. For an ordinary person, Annabelle and I, you know, dirt poor, and we have never taken any money ever for any of our civic engagement, ever. No political candidate, no campaign. We're just people who care. We do it as a sense of civic duty. If more of those those kinds of people can have that kind of impact, I think we can rival corporate power, corporate spending, leadership spending. It's a bit of a digression because I just want to do something that's kind of funny, just to loosen us up for the Q&A. On DCA Channel 20, when I was growing up in Burke, Virginia, was a show called WWF Professional Wrestling. It was on, I think it was 11 a.m. on Sundays, and I was hooked. So I'm a half Asian, half white kid growing up in Virginia, not long after the Supreme Court had struck down the anti-miscegenation laws. So there aren't a lot of interracial Asian kids around. There aren't a lot of interracial kids around at all, because I was born 5 years after the Loving versus Virginia decision. So for me, identity was a complex thing to construct. And professional wrestling was such a great guide as to who the good guys were and who the bad guys were in America. Right? Oh, of course the good guys were patriotic Americans. Okay? The bad guys were either Americans who were not patriotic and very self-centered and pretty vicious and sadistic, or they were foreigners. Right? So I'm watching, and Mr. Fuji and Mr. Saito are bad guys. Why? Because they're from Japan. Tiger Chun-Li is a bad guy. Why? Because he's from Korea. Killer Khan is a bad guy. Why? Because he's from Mongolia. The Samoans, guess what? They're bad. They're from Samoa. So I'm watching this, and then there was this one character that really, really fascinated me. And the showrunner, Vince McMahon, realized this too. Even though he was a bad guy, Jimmy the Superfly Snuka was from Fiji. That's why he was bad. Actually, he was from Hawaii, which is my other boy at home. Well, Jimmy the Superfly Snuka could jump off the top rope and land on another person and never miss. And he became very popular in spite of the fact that he was introduced to us, much like Kamala the Ugandan Giant. Kamala the Ugandan Giant was from Georgia. But anyway, he was introduced to the public on a commercial for another wrestling federation, NWA, where it's an African-American man who's 6'8", 320 pounds, wearing a loincloth and war paint, coming out of the jungle at the camera, and the caption says, "This will be the opponent for Jerry the King Lawler on Saturday," and they sold out the arena in minutes. Well, Jimmy the Superfly Snuka was introduced the same way. Although he's an American, they had him with this huge afro and bulging eyes, and he was unable to speak. And his white manager, Captain Lou Albano, would say, "This guy's going to kick your ass," but he could never speak, and he couldn't figure out his finances, and he was just basically a zoological specimen. Until Vince McMahon figured out if he could make him into a good guy, he could sell more tickets. So how do you make a foreigner into a good guy? Well, it was a story where Jimmy figured out that his manager was cheating him, and then his manager had him attacked. And then Ray the Crippler Stevens, who was an American, but he was a sadistic, self-centered guy, broke Jimmy the Superfly Snuka's neck. Okay, and so this is the story I'm watching as a 10-year-old. Vince McMahon plays the role as the journalist, okay, is talking to Gorilla Monsoon, who's the color man. And Vince McMahon says, "Gorilla Monsoon, what do you think about the fact that Ray the Crippler Stevens has broken Jimmy the Superfly Snuka's neck?" And then Gorilla Monsoon says, "Well, Vince, I wrestled a lot of years, and I gotta tell you, when a man injures you in the ring, you bear a grudge against that man, and I can imagine that Jimmy's very angry right now." And then Vince said, "Gorilla Monsoon, what do you think's gonna happen when Jimmy the Superfly Snuka's neck heals, and he comes back to fight Ray the Crippler Stevens at the Capitol Center on June 23rd, 1910. And Gorilla Monsoon says, "I wrestled a lot of years, and I gotta tell you, if a man had broken my neck, and then my neck healed, and then I was gonna fight him at the Capitol Center on June 23rd, I think it would be one hell of a match, and you better pay $29.99 to see it." Now, would you tell stories that way if you owned the World Wrestling Federation? Or if you had a YouTube channel, which is where we're going with this, would you tell stories that way? Would you use good guys and bad guys that way, the Democrats and the Republicans? Or the foreigners and the white, patriotic Americans? In fairness, they were sometimes black and even Latino. But, no, you wouldn't, right? Okay. And that brings me to the Supreme Court decision. Because I think that the Supreme Court decision was not just judicial activism, it was an ideological act of desperation.